Welcome to the Bitcoin Source podcast, where we delve into the fascinating world of Bitcoin and explore its impact on our lives and the global economy. Today, we have the privilege of hosting a truly remarkable guest, Rena Shah, the head of operations and strategy at Trust Machines, an innovative company at the forefront of developing the largest ecosystem of applications on Bitcoin, encompassing everything from wallets and ordinals to Web3 identity and decentralized finance. Welcome, Reina.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Most definitely. I'm super excited to speak to you today. So, to kickstart off this conversation, Reina, could you elaborate on the mission of Trust Machines and how it aims to build the largest ecosystem of applications on Bitcoin?
It's actually super simple. We build products on Bitcoin. My goal is to bring a billion people to Bitcoin. And the easiest way to do that is through products. So, using a Bitcoin wallet, interacting in Bitcoin DeFi, using chat that's secured by Bitcoin. There's so much more you can do with Bitcoin than just holding it. And that's our mission.
Most definitely. And I've been digging into Trust Machines quite briefly, not like fully fledged, but I think that the protocol that you guys are doing over there is really interesting and different, especially with the context of Bitcoin kind of heating up for 2024. I think more eyes are on the protocol. So my question to you, Reina, is, how has your background from, being a drilling engineer to having some experience in the commodities market, how has that influenced your approach to the crypto and Bitcoin space?
I'm so glad you're asking this because I literally swapped out one commodity, oil, for Bitcoin, which is another commodity. So there are a lot of similarities in what I see in oil and Bitcoin. Both are volatile assets, but they provide real world value. Bitcoin is sound money, Bitcoin is decentralized money. It will always be there for you. And to build off of that from in relation to oil, which is without oil, none of us would be able to power our day to day, our laptops, our microchips, like all the things in like oil based products. There is like a there is like a point of when technology goes beyond where we stand today to where we could be for the future, and this is where I see the cusp of what Bitcoin is doing, similar to what oil probably did in like the 1970s. So like if you were in the 70s, all of oil was based on the dollar. Now oil is moving to different currency standards. Bitcoin could be that currency standard, and that's a powerful thing to think about.
Most definitely. And for my audience out there that might be flummoxed on, the oil industry or the Bitcoin industry, could you kind of share some of your early days setting up those Bitcoin mining pools, especially while working on those, offshore drilling rigs? I think that the comparison of the two are vastly different, but kind of similar. Could you kind of elaborate on that?
100%. So if I were to put my oil hat on, the commodity, like I spent all day on a drilling rig. So I was offshore, and everything I physically did on a day to day was to extract something out from the earth. Setting up a Bitcoin mining pool, Bitcoin mining rig is virtually the same thing as drilling for oil. You're setting up machinery to extract something from the earth. The only difference is this extraction is coming via code. So, similar process, just different outlooks and different outcomes for what the end result is. But it's virtually the same from like a process optimization. As you go through setting up rigs, physical, digital, doesn't matter. You're thinking about the resources you need. So for both of these, electricity, hash power, and kind of the cost basis for when you break even, virtually the same. What I find special about Bitcoin mining versus anything else, anybody can do it. You could do it from like the old days with like a Raspberry Pi. I did one for my college dorm room in 2012. So like everybody, it's Bitcoin mining is accessible to anyone and everyone, which is special, whereas oil is not.
Yes, I agree with that. And I think that it is super easy to kind of get into Bitcoin. And I think that that will become more ubiquitous in the space in 2024 when things start to heat up with the ETF and just people becoming more aware of the power of Bitcoin. And Reina, there was something that I really wanted to pick your brain on, which was, you mentioned being on oil rigs, you mentioned being in the energy sector, and I've spoken to a number of guests on this podcast, particularly women or people that are coming from the energy industry, and Lisa Huff always comes to mind.
Officially, I'm in the Bitcoin world. So that was really how I fell down the rabbit hole, and I just continue to find myself, more enthralled in this space the more I figure it out, because I feel like I had to go through okay, I'm greedy, right, and I want to make money, so I'm going to buy Bitcoin. I went through that phase. I went through okay, well, there's all these other coins too, so I think I'll buy 20 other coins and I'll day trade, and these were all phases. But what I really discovered is the incredible connection between Bitcoin and energy. And because my previous work experience was in the energy world, I was like, wow, like this is just, this is the future of Bitcoin, right? Like we think the macro is super interesting. We talk about it on Twitter all the time. And the macro is interesting, I guess. But to me, the real growth in this industry, and where I think we'll see an enormous amount of positive traction and adoption, is with these energy companies.
She's been in the oil and the energy industry for several decades, and you kind of remind me of her. My question to you is, how did you manage that $300 million energy portfolio that you gave views on your investments from, and how did this experience translate into the crypto world?
So while I was at the family office at the Houston, Texas, and NFL team, I had the privilege of working on their energy portfolio, and we took a somewhat innovative approach. They were an old school family office who just happened to own oil fields all across Texas, Louisiana, and such. And this was 2014, so Bitcoin was growing, and we took the position of putting Bitcoin rigs all on alongside the oil fields as well. And what we did was we recaptured flare gas and repurposed it for Bitcoin mining, because it was something that I was going to essentially release into the environment anyway and burn. But to use that and repurpose it for digital currency made sense. And it was a really good investment opportunity, because in 2014, the block rewards are very high for Bitcoin, even though the price of Bitcoin is on the lower side of 2014. The ROI for a proof of concept of decentralized money was limitless, and that was like the way we approached all of our investments at the family office. So we did some Bitcoin mining, but we also invest in other blockchain-based technologies like microgrids or other things like that to really see, does this concept of decentralized ledgers have legs?
Yes, great answer. Thank you, Raina, for that. Um, I want to talk about like this kind of hot topic in the space right now, and this kind of appertains to DeFi as well. But this Web3 identity craze that everybody is kind of like really talking about right now in the crypto and blockchain space, I think that Trust Machines is kind of really trying to be on the forefront of that side of the protocol. And I really wanted to pick your brain on, how do you see these things evolving and what potential impacts could they have on the ecosystem?
The way I see it is we all have our social profiles in the more traditional sense, whether it's a Twitter X profile, an Instagram, a TikTok. But I hold no rights to that data. I can't control who can sell ads based on my data, who can do this. But by taking a decentralized identity approach, whether it's a Bitcoin solution, which is what our company is building, or EVM like the .eth domains, it is the power of controlling the internet from the user's perspective, and that is the most important thing. So when I think about my on-chain data and tying it to an identity, I'll think about, what pieces of my data do I want tied to my identity? Do I want all my on-chain transactions of, I participate in a DAO, I buy an NFT, do I want that to be part of my social graph? Or do I want to have an identity that's more about maybe my trading activity? Maybe I'm starting an investment club, who knows? But having all of that tied in a seamless way that I control or you control gives the power back to us, as opposed to monopolies of large social media, which is where the internet was supposed to be from the get-go.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. And most of these Web 2, Layer 2 applications that we're seeing now are heavily centralized, and a lot of people are kind of feeling the fallout from that, whether it's being banned from social media, being blocked from certain accounts, or not being able to access certain, um, social points on the internet protocol. I think that Web 3 is going to come in now and kind of give that freedom to people to actually have the ability to really just converse, whether it's transferring energy or finances peer to peer. It opens up the door for all of these different possibilities. And I think that with you at the helm at Trust Machines, along with your team, I think that things are going to look really bright for people that are really interested in that side of the ecosystem.
Well, I couldn't agree more. I'm definitely bullish on the identity space and like what social media could like look like in the future. I don't want, just because I post something, the idea that someone else could censor me. That shouldn't be happening in this day and age.
100%. I agree with that. Reina, I want to talk about women in crypto and the blockchain industry. Of course, this is another hot topic. When you're dealing with Bitcoin in particular, it's very heavy white male dominated, or just male dominated in general. And I would love to know your insight on that, because you have such an extensive experience of different jobs, different roles, different positions. And how do you view the current landscape for women in the crypto and blockchain industry?
I'll say in like the current landscape compared to like, let's say, my traditional oil background, women have more opportunities in Web3, crypto, blockchain technology to be at the helm or be at the forefront. Um, we're still early though. There is not that many women who are kind of in the C-suite of companies or such that compared to like my male counterparts. And so there is a gap that should be divided. The way I would also look at this is that women are a different consumer market for Web3 and crypto. So the way I use Web3 and crypto wildly differs than probably most of my male counterparts. I would think there is a majority of men using crypto for investment purposes or whatever it may be via trading. Whereas I'm also looking at the possibility of Web3 and how that can like transform technology. Can it build a community? And that is a different lens. That is a valuable lens for people to continue to have diverse backgrounds at the highest of the highest at companies and at the helm.
Which one's the best crypto asset? Well, Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Okay. What's the second best? There is no second best. There's no second best crypto asset. There's a crypto asset. It's called Bitcoin, right? Right? There's no second best. Okay. But take all your money, buy Bitcoin, then take all your time, figure out how to borrow more money to buy more Bitcoin, then take all your time and figure out what you can sell to buy Bitcoin. And if you absolutely love the thing that you don't want to sell it, go mortgage your house and buy Bitcoin with it. And if you've got a business that you love because your family works for the business that's in your family for 37 years and you can't bear to sell it, mortgage it, finance it, and convert the proceeds into the hardest money on earth, which is Bitcoin.
This channel is for education purposes only and is not affiliated with any financial institution. This is not financial advice. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now back to the episode.
Yes, and to kind of expound more on that front, I think that a lot of people are kind of naive to the fact of the difficulties of being in this space, or just the challenges. So, like, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced in operations and strategy within the crypto sector so far?
One of the biggest like hurdles I face is that there is no crystal ball for this. Like we are making it up as we go. There is no playbook to follow, and so your risk tolerance for how you make decisions is critical when you're working to guide a Web3 company. I have to think that every decision that I make or every calibration of risk that I make could be walked back from new regulation coming forward or things that I cannot foresee now because our industry is still nascent technology, at least in America. Other countries have built out more robust regulatory frameworks, where in America we're still finding our common ground with our legislature and such. But I think that for me is like one of the biggest challenges. I think the other might be an unglamorous topic, but the finance aspect of crypto. We go through wild upswings every day. I don't know if a token will be 50% up, 50% down, wherever it may be. So managing your portfolio and like your treasury for liquidity is a different role in crypto than like traditional finance.
Yes, and that segues into my next question because when you talk about finance, like coming from a traditional banking background or an investor background, I think that Bitcoin, Web3, blockchain technology has been getting a bad rap in the mainstream finance world. And when you see people like Jim Cramer, pontificating on Bitcoin is trash, and then now he's changing his tune and saying that it's unstoppable. It's because is the ETF being approved and it's kind of getting this like cleaner look to it, or is it based varied on the investor's experience, right? So like my question for you, Reina, is like how do you perceive Bitcoin's role evolving in the mainstream finance realm now that we're seeing more of the traditional old school investors kind of saying that Bitcoin is actually something that they are looking into and are interested in?
So maybe I'm, I'm probably going to get roasted for this. I am not keen on the spot ETF coming forward. Like, I understand it's parity for everyday folks to be able to buy Bitcoin through their investment accounts, retirement accounts, and such. Like, I'm glad my grandparents would have the ability to buy Bitcoin through their retirement account with the spot ETF. But I actually like to me, traditional finance is only waking up to Bitcoin because of price appreciation and volatility, and that is not the way you should think about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is built as decentralized ethos and ethos of this is an alternative financial rails that cannot be guardianed or custodied by a bank or a centralized regime. With the spot ETF, we are going in the opposite direction. It now means that the circulating supply of Bitcoin will be in a bank under custody, meaning that you have less Bitcoin transacting day to day between people. Bitcoin transactions could slow down. Less people will be using Bitcoin for ordinals or other innovative applications. And so, like, I'm glad a spot ETF will give mass mainstream credibility to Bitcoin, but it actually hurts the builders on Bitcoin.
Yes, I have to agree with that in many ways. I'm a hardcore Bitcoiner, so like I understand the whole entire like evolution process of Bitcoin, right? It's like first they ignore you, then they fight you, and then they finally accept it, right? And I think that we're kind of like in that weird they fight you, they accept it stage. And I think that a traditional banker or a traditional investment institution can never fully just onboard into the organic form of Bitcoin because it kind of disrupts their whole entire business model. So the only way for them to onboard Bitcoin is either through having it on their balance sheet as leverage or as a hedge, or actually just creating an ETF so that they can kind of wash it into a 401k or a hedge fund or a
Into
mutual
their
fund.
own platforms or programs or offerings that they have. But Bitcoin did not need that. The ethos was self custody. That was the whole point, that
Yep.
my keys to my Bitcoin will be with me. And if there was a bank run, a weekend where you can't access money, there is something that is there with me at all times. And so I view and value that traditional finance is more accepting towards Bitcoin, but it may not be in the way that I am looking for. First, they ignore you and then they accept you. This isn't quite the acceptance that I'm looking for. What I want is people to be able to want to use Bitcoin on a day to day, or other even decentralized assets. Like, it doesn't matter, right? But it's like you want there to be a rails of systems that works for every corner of the world,
Yep.
that is efficient, because right now money is not efficient.
Yes, 100%. Enough said. Reina, you hit the nail on the head with that one. Um, Trust Machines is working on Bitcoin and they're really heavy into the ordinal space. And you just mentioned ordinals kind of being a part of the Bitcoin protocol that can be used for that space. So could you explain the concept for your audience of what the significance of ordinals is for the innovation of Bitcoin, in your opinion?
So, an ordinal, if you are not familiar with ordinals, it is a form of NFT on the Bitcoin blockchain. However, there are a few fundamental differences between an ordinal as an NFT versus a Ethereum, Solana, other chain NFT. The biggest difference of an ordinal is that when I inscribe or create this ordinal, I am writing the data directly into the Bitcoin blockchain on that mempool space, like in that block space. Meaning, if one Bitcoin node continues to run, that data will be there forever. When you think of other NFTs, more often than not, the data is held in a AWS cloud or a centralized cloud, whereas Ordinal is utterly decentralized because it's secured only on the Bitcoin mempool space. So like I think that's super powerful. The like Web 2 analogy I would give is using an NFT on another chain is kind of like hooking it up to iCloud or something like that. Like the cloud service still owns that data. Whereas in this means it is secured and operated on a Bitcoin node so that anybody can continue to allow it to exist. So, like, I think that's powerful. You don't have a centralized authority to what you create, and there's more value creation. Um, what makes Ordinals very special is that it is too expensive to hack the Bitcoin blockchain. I don't know who is going to come up with 51% to try to reorg and hack Bitcoin. So this is probably the most secure form of a blockchain to use to safeguard something than other forms. So I would view ordinals as like high value settlement, and settlement is subjective. What is high value to you and what is high value to me? If I perceive it as value, then I would put it on Bitcoin.
Agreed on that for sure. Um, what advice would you give individuals that are looking to start or advance their careers in the crypto industry?
If you're brand new, you should just play around with the tools and tech. Like, I urge you to make a swap on Uniswap, get a Bitcoin wallet, get a participate in DeFi, create an NFT, ordinal, other means doesn't matter, but using this is the best form of learning. Reading will not get you anywhere.
Yeah, reading, I'm a bookworm, so I'm kind of biased on that, but um,
It's one thing to like read something, it's another thing to do something.
yeah, you're right. You have to build at some point. You just can't be, knowledgeable and not have any proof of work at the end of the day. So that is true.
But at
Um,
the end of the day, this industry is also a little bit different. We're an industry of people who are coming together from every single background, walks of life. It is the most inclusive of industries because we have no standard. That's the beauty of it.
yep, 100%. Reina, I wanted to really pick your brain on this thought that I had, which is, I think that you're a very intelligent woman. I think that you have foresight as far as where the market's going to go, where crypto's going, where Web3 is going. And I always wanted to know, like, how do you look at your personal investment in regards to Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies? Like, are you 100% Bitcoiner? Do you dabble into other cryptocurrencies that you find interesting or that you think might end up kind of arbitraging the protocols later down the road? Like, I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Obviously not financial advice. However, I participate in a lot of different protocols and assets. Most people know that I previously was at Binance US, so I ran BD and listings for every asset on Binance US. And so I've had the privilege to have done deep research on many tokens. And so, like, I have participated in everything from EVM to other L1s to L2 tokens, even a meme coin here and there. But for me, it's about if there is utility, there is a good chance that I would allocate some small amount towards it and then watch that grow. For something that I think is high value, likely would dollar cost in and like build a position over time. I do heavily arb and trade. After leaving oil, I worked as a gas trader. So there is a trader mentality in me. And so like I will take out leverage bets on things that I think that could pan out in a medium term horizon.
Smart woman, smart woman. Always diversify your portfolio. And there's people out there like Jack Mallers recently just put a tweet out showing his bank account is at zero for fiat dollars, and he's fully vested into Bitcoin. And I think that that's super cool. But he's also a millionaire, so not everyone could do that. But diversify your portfolio. It doesn't necessarily have to be crypto. This is not financial advice, but always leave your options open for different sways or ebbs and flows in the market. So, Reina, thank you for that insight. So, last question, Reina. What are some upcoming projects or developments at Trust Machines that you're particularly excited about?
One, for the Leather wallet, we own a Bitcoin Web3 wallet. It is on browser and desktop, but we are getting ready to release mobile. So the idea of Bitcoin should go where you go. And so having a Bitcoin wallet for everyone on the go, we're very excited about mobile, especially because Bitcoin is becoming more and more ubiquitous in daily life. So I personally want to bring my ordinals along with me wherever I go. You never know when I want to show off who I'm supporting or things like that. There is a second project that is still a little bit in stealth, but we are building a Bitcoin liquidity protocol. So the idea of Bitcoin should have DeFi. Bitcoin does not have DeFi right now. And so to build that from the ground up is a pretty rewarding experience for us. Like, the way I see it is that I should be able to use my Bitcoin to get a loan out. In a stable coin or something like that, I'm willing to collateralize on it, but I don't want to exit my long position of Bitcoin. So allow me to take out a loan and access liquidity against my Bitcoin. This right now only exists in like a wrapped BTC way. I don't want to wrap my Bitcoin. I am not going to expose my Bitcoin to another on-chain protocol risk. Like, I'm not willing. And so the idea of building a product for a Bitcoiner's mindset has really been kind of forefront for our company.
Yes, I laughed when you said talking about wrapped Bitcoin because I had a guest on by the name of John Light, and we had a very insightful conversation about wrapped Bitcoin. It kind of terrifies me because of the bridges. The bridges are so heavily kind of like they can be hacked so easily. My audience is a really Bitcoin heavy focused audience. And, just you mentioning some of these things, I mean, there's some things that I didn't like about the protocol because I wanted you to kind of explain it and elucidate what Sovereign does. Because I was like reading on it a little bit. And then from my understanding, it looked like, well, why is the company doing what they're doing when you have the Lightning Network or you have a layer 2 or 3 application that's kind of doing the same thing? But then I start digging deeper into it. And just from my technical background and aptitude, it's looking like it's more of something called a wrapped smart contract where you put something in, it gets wrapped, and then you can convert it into something else. There's some, I don't want to say issues with that for me, but I would say my qualm with it is that why is it being run on an EVM blockchain? My assumption is that it's easier to scale. It's just easier for engineers to go in and edit and modify things instead of trying to, get approval on the main, Bitcoin main chain or something for that example. So you can answer that question in a second, John. But I think a lot of people that watch this podcast, they're so terrified of being burnt. When you talk about bridges get they get exploited all the time by hackers. I don't know how your security protocol is there with your team, but when I heard the word bridge, I was like, a wrap smart contract and it's on a bridge. I'm like, oh my goodness, like I need him to explain this more because a lot of people are going to be all over this episode because they're like, oh, he's talking about altcoins, he's talking about EVM blockchain. So if you can kind of give me a little bit more clarity on like the security end of that, I'd love to know it.
Yeah, sure. So I think we'll start with the bridge because the bridge is definitely like the thing that makes everything else about Rootstock and how you can use Bitcoin in Rootstock smart contracts work. So the bridge that Rootstock uses is called a PowPeg, is like the technical name that they gave to this bridge. And the way that the PowPeg works is that they have a federation of 12 different nodes run by different companies or individuals, organizations, whatever, in the Rootstock ecosystem. These different entities run a node called a POW-HSM node. That stands for Proof of Work Hardware Security Module. And this this POW-HSM is designed to be kind of like an autonomous hardware wallet.
Easily. And that was the thing that always scared me with Wrap Bitcoin. So I'm glad that you said that to my audience. For people that are not in the know, thank you for that.
Yeah, I mean, I might be naive, but like most of us who invested in Bitcoin invested because of proof of work. It's secure. Proof of work has legs to continue to add to the security budget of Bitcoin. And so let's say Bitcoin is my safe haven or inflationary asset that I'm holding as a reserve, then I'm not going to expose it more than I need to. So if I wanted short-term liquidity, my Bitcoin must stay on the L1, and that is the type of protocol we're building.
Yes. Rena Shah, thank you very much for being on the Bitcoin Source. This has been an honor to hear your unfettered genius and your insight on all things blockchain and Bitcoin. Before you go, could you give people your social media handles and any other future endeavors that you want the audience to know about?
Sure, I can be reached at Rena P. Shah on X Twitter or soon to be on the new console chat app. So you'll find me there.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Rena Shah. Thank you for being on the Bitcoin Source. Have a good one.
Take care. Thank you so much.